Yeah, I only started following my trading rules once I went through all that pain when I didn't follow my trading rules. So yeah, when I start to break my rules or think about it, I just start thinking about all the past experiences, and then that just stops me.
Yeah, and honestly, like I remember because last year was kind of the turning point year for me personally, and it's so weird because like even prior to that, right, the year prior in 2021, bro, I had the skill set. Like it's so weird. I think most people, and you guys can kind of like talk about it as well. I think most people have this skill set, right? Because I know in 2021, bro, like I used to call in my group chat, like with my friends' chats. We used to like, I'll be like super accurate on the direction. I even like talk about like, yo, price is gonna bounce from here, and then like, then I look at my P&L and I'm down on the day. And like, and again, that's why I really like Tom Dante because a lot of the stuff that he was talking about from his own experiences, from other prop firm traders that he was trading with, they had similar experiences, like where there will be someone who's really talented but can't make any money, and it goes to show like there is something in terms of just sticking to your word, right? Confiding in yourself and understanding like, listen, if I set out a game plan of what I'm going to do every single day, do it for an extended amount of time until it becomes that habit, when it becomes a lot more natural to do it. Because our first instinct sometimes, right, is to revenge trade, right? Because you're down on the day, then you go on Twitter, and then this ex trader is up like $10,000, and you're like, oh my god, and you're looking at your P&L and you think you suck, and then all these like internal dialogue starts to kind of come out. And even now, like, right, even like finding consistency last year, and having a few payouts this year, right? This year a little bit more difficult because the market has kind of been a lot more choppier than recent past in terms of like not as much trend, so you have to be very picky. But even then, the internal dialogue it's a constant work in progress. You don't just wake up one day and boom, you know what I mean? Like, you really have to kind of stick to what your word, and then once you kind of view your word as like the gospel, right, where it's just like, I'm gonna do what I say I'm gonna do, I really think that
That's like
ultimately
the
helps.
breakthrough point. Like
Yeah.
that's when your trading takes like a U-turn, and then you start doing the things that you practice or know that you should be doing, or like sticking to your risk management plan. Like a lot of people just can't be disciplined enough to stick to that.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you like break it up into different parts, if you know what I mean? So like as you mentioned, like risk management, maybe your technical ability.
Honestly, like when I was studying, I probably should have. Like I probably should have focused on one area. But when you're first getting into it, you're trying to focus on everything. Because you have to be a well-rounded trader. You can't just lack in one area and then be great at it, in something else, right? So a lot of people are just focused on too many things all at once, so they're trying to learn too much all at once.
For me, I made the mistake of thinking that technical analysis is everything. So I spent 2020 the entire year just studying ICT concepts all day from the moment I woke up till I slept, thinking that's what's going to make me profitable. Only till I started learning about psychology, started learning from Mark Douglas, was I able to actually be profitable.
Yeah. I bring it all up all the time because I was around like when Forex Factory was like the only resource. There was no psychology thread on Forex Factory. Nobody's talking about mindset over there, trust me.
Yeah, and again, that's what when I referred to before, like about 2021, and even like towards the end of 2020, after we talked about WWA's course content, and integrating some of that stuff with like ICT's concepts, and then like the skill set was there from 2020, but I didn't really start to see any consistent result until the end of 2021, going into 2022. And why is that? It really does boil down to kind of just not following the plan. And I actually wanted to like kind of hear from Kyle Paladin.
Part of that too is like getting access to capital, right? Like
you know what,
getting access to capital is a huge thing, right? Like because you honestly want to take that 5K to 100K.
Exactly.
Like you do. Everybody out there that's listening right now, like I've been there, and it never happens, because trying to turn that 5K into 100K is going to take you 5-10 years. Like it takes a long time to build up and grow that capital. So for me, like huge shout out to the prop firms. Like if I didn't have access to the capital, I don't think I would be here, like straight up, because I was the guy trying to apply to like S&B Capital and Jane Street, and if you don't have a 2-year track record or some type of like master's in finance, they're not even looking at your resume, like straight up. So when you're, I guess this is a message to all the traders out there, like put yourself in a position where, all right, I actually have a really solid resume to take this fun challenge. Like I deserve this now. Like a lot of people probably have a terrible resume right now. And they're trying to pass this fun challenge. Well, you're never gonna get the job,
Yeah.
So just treat it like
I've always said trying to flip a small account to like 50, 100K is unrealistic.
you could do it if you're willing to risk the money.
Yeah,
like if you have the money, right? If you got 250K in your account,
But most don't.
yeah, exactly.
That's the one.
Most Americans don't have that, right? So
I think it's just pushed because of these fake trading influencers. They're trying to show like, oh, they're crazy. They can flip these small accounts to big numbers, and they're willing to lose that money.
maybe
They don't show negative.
maybe they are. Maybe there's. I mean, I'm sure like the top 1% of people probably did do that, right? Like,
But I'm
there are people that did flip a small fortune into like massive amounts, right? Like a Larry Williams, like that guy. I think he turned like $2,000 into like $2 million. But that's like that's like 1% type of person, and you can't like assume that you're gonna be able to do that.
Yeah, and I always talk about like not just in like trading, but in like life, right? You're always gonna have like people who are the anomalies, but then people try to use the anomaly
As bell curve. There's the bell curve.
Yeah, exactly.
They think, all right, this guy's done it. Somebody challenged me, and I was like, it was like a 1-year challenge, right? And they were like, why don't you just trade your own capital? Why don't you just trade your own capital? I could do it, and I said, well, why don't you try and take that $5,000 that you would have taken and try to flip it into like $50,000 in a year, right? Or do it in a prop firm. Like, come back to me in a year and see how it goes. And I'm still waiting. I use like the Remind Me bot on Twitter. I think it's December of this year. I'm gonna follow back up with that guy.
He's coming.
I'm coming for it, man.